Hello and welcome again to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, Integrity Deficit Disorder. We have co-authors today, Sheri Rivlin and Allan Rivlin. Their book, Divided We Fall, Why Consensus Matters. Glad to see you there, Allan. Nice to see you.
It's great to be on the show. Sheri's with me in the room. She won't be on the camera, but she'll pass me information as I need it to try to sound intelligent and try to sound like I have integrity.
Well, it's amazing what integrity can do. You know, you ask somebody, "What do you have integrity?" They say, "Sure." I said, "Well, where do you keep it?" And then they start looking in their pockets. So, one of the things that I do, for me anyway, is after I've gone through all the materials, I get back to the book itself. And I'm a table of contents guy, which gives us the short and the long, right in the way, in the middle. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, terrific. You guys have so much material and so many accolades. I'm about to fall out of my chair. I want to quote a few things, if I may. This book is a practical guide for Americans across the political spectrum who are agonizing over partisan warfare, incivility, and policy gridlock, and looking for ways they can help get our democratic policy process back on a constructive track before it's too late. You got my vote on that one, for sure. We've been talking about this for a long time, my friends and family, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing. You I guess it launched in October. Is that right?
That is correct. And honestly, we feel that we have to balance the alarm and concern about how things are today with some good news. There's been an awful lot of good bipartisan solid legislation that got passed in 2022, and hopefully we can keep that going. It may be a little bit more alarming again as we turn to 2023.
Right, and that being the next starting gun. What's next?
What's next is a cloudy crystal ball for certain, but we really face a question because there has been a supermajority of bipartisans running the country in 2022. And it started with Joe Biden, but it included Mitch McConnell, and it included Chuck Schumer, and it included Bernie Sanders. And pretty much anything that group of people could agree with. They could get Tom Tillis to come along, and they could get Joe Manchin to come along, but they passed a lot in the Senate, both before the election and then after the election in a lame duck. So the question going forward is, now that the House is in control of the Republicans, barely, are they going to take us back to where we're divided, or will this bipartisanship continue to shape our policy moving forward?
Well, it certainly is wishful. However, I've seen what I've seen over the last 5 years, and it doesn't seem to get any better. It's maybe we'll see the 4 or 5 Republicans in action that I think are supposed to be in order to be able to have what's the word that I'm looking for? They
Well,
have
that I think you need 4 or 5 to take the majority away from
right,
the right wing caucus.
right,
And we don't know if they'll assert themselves. They didn't really during the battle over getting the speaker named. They didn't
right,
assert themselves, and they may. I think what really matters is not who's speaker, but whether they can hold the caucus together when something really important is being voted on. And so far, that hasn't. Nothing important has gotten. There's some really important things coming up, but voting to take away 87,000 IRS agents. But I think what I would really say is there's an awful lot of talk in Washington from all sides. And we spend an awful lot of time listening to what the Republicans in the House want to do. But we really need to pay attention to what do the Republicans in the House have the power to do. And they did not have the power to take back 87,000 IRS agents because the supermajority last year passed them. That passed with Joe Biden's signature and Mitch McConnell's vote and all the others. And the House Republicans don't have the power to pass a new law undoing that law. So it stands. The supermajority is still in control of how many IRS agents are there, even though the Republicans passed the bill deleting them.
Right. There's so many hooks and cracks and grannies and all that kind of stuff. It's you just don't know what. There's certain information that I do see are very, very well reviews that you've done with the book. You should be very proud of that. It's comments and other comments, and these pages are the core symbols of Alice Rivlin's life and legacy. Courage, integrity, determination. I know all about those three completely. Another comment on here was that she loved the code. If you have integrity, nothing matters. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. That's fantastic.
And was that Alan Simpson who said that?
I think it was, no, I think it was Alice. Who said it? Okay, yes, Allan Simpson. You're right.
Alan Simpson, the Republican senator from Wyoming. Now he was on the Simpson-Bowles Commission, and Alice was on that. And I think one of the real points you're making is the word integrity appears a lot of times on the back of the book. And so if you're searching for integrity, Alice Rivlin certainly, I think, convinced a lot of people that she had integrity because she wasn't trying to score political points. She was trying to figure out how do we get real things done that help people. Sheri and I miss her very much. She passed away in 2019, and we completed the book for her. And we were just working as hard as we could to live up to her standards of integrity as we did that.
Well, this is an enormous undertaking, and you guys have done well. It says again here, this is a smart book that explains how stupid political fights in Washington are, wasting time instead of getting work done and solving problems for the American people. Rivlin gives us concrete action steps to fix our broken politics so we can get our economy moving. I wonder if that's possible. I mean, here I am thinking, I once thought it was important and everybody was going to benefit from it, but some seem to get in the way, something got in the way for this or that. It just goes on and on.
Well, that's really the heart of the book right there. That was Congressman Tim Ryan who said that smart book about stupid people in Washington and their political games.
Yeah.
And that's really where Alice was when she started this project. She had been on the Simpson-Bowles Commission, and there was a Domenici-Rivlin Commission that both put together blueprints so that we could get the budget deficit on a sustainable path without raising taxes in a way that would crush business and without cutting benefits in a way that would harm the most vulnerable. But the politics got in the way. The solutions were available, but the politicians couldn't get there. And that's when she started writing this book. And we're now in so much a rerun of the period from 2011 to 2016, when the Tea Party and Barack Obama were in these life and death struggle matches to try to pass a budget and avoid a debt ceiling breach. Well, here we are again. And the real question is, are we going to have another battle along those lines? Or did we learn enough from that period that we can avoid repeating the mistakes of the past?
One more time. We've got our fingers and our toes crossed. It's quite an undertaking. I've told you that. It's an amazing project here. Let me find out the history. Is there a history of partisanship and deal making? Is it some of the great senators that would always seem to be in the right place at the right time? The Constitutional Convention to the Gilded Age.
We tell a lot of history. And when I say that, I mean, Alice had such a grand vision that she wanted to start with James Madison and Alexander Hamilton and the deals they had to make just to create the country, and then go through almost president by president, decade by decade, all the way up to the present. And we had to check all of her facts and tell the stories where she skipped some things. But there are lots of stories in the book about great statesmen coming together to pass bipartisan legislation. One of the biggest examples is well, first of all, the Great Society and the New Deal, all those programs that are seen as so progressive. And I think most progressives think that was because the Democrats had huge majorities back then. But the progressives are wrong about that. That's not how that happened. What really happened, because the Democratic majorities were made up of some Southern segregationist Southern Democrats, conservative Southern Democrats, and they were blocking most of this stuff. So FDR and Lyndon Johnson had to form bipartisan coalitions to go around the blockage among the Democrats. And most of the Social Security and Medicare and the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, those were all bipartisan bills. There were more votes against the Civil Rights Act from Democrats than from Republicans. Most people don't know that.
I didn't know that. And I'm supposed to know everything. And my wife says, "Oh yeah, right, you." Well, I was about to say, blurt out LBJ. I know that much about that, and he was certainly informed for that. He's one of those people that can bring a lot of people together.
Oh, that's absolutely right. But the other name you have to say is Everett Dirksen, who was the minority leader in the Senate. He was a Republican. And there's a great quote in the history of the Senate. So this is there on the internet for everyone to see, where Lyndon Johnson tells Hubert Humphrey, who was leading the Senate and leading his efforts in the Senate before he was the vice president. And he says, "You get with Dirksen, you drink with Dirksen, you talk to Dirksen, you listen to Dirksen," because they needed his vote to break the filibuster and pass the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act.
Well, the life of that is in jeopardy. Is that true? Or has it been put to bed?
Well, basically right now, most of the Voting Rights Act has been invalidated by the Supreme Court in a couple of different decisions. There is a a Democratic-led effort to try to restore the Voting Rights Act, and there's a bipartisan effort to try to restore the Voting Rights Act. I'm disappointed that they didn't get that done at the end of 2022. That's the kind of thing where you could find common ground, because the Republicans have historically supported the Voting Rights Act, and so have the Democrats. There's a real question as to why we can't restore that, because we really need it. We're having battles over whether or not everyone in America has an equal opportunity to cast a vote.
And that's the overall government vote, right, for the budget.
And it's their vote for president and for House and Senate.
Well, all I can say is we'll see. The bipartisan budget negotiations from the Reagan-Bush years were, I didn't pay much attention to then.
Well, there was this big deal that Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill struck that extended the life of Social Security. It's why the retirement age is going up by 1 month per year back then. But it put Social Security on a sound footing. Now they shoved it way into the future. Now the future is here, because that was a while ago. But it showed how by giving a little, both sides gave a little, and they got a lot, and really did some important things in that period.
Well, it's like coming to the rescue. It's if it's going to happen, let's make it happen as soon as we can. What about hyper partisanship in modern politics?
Well, that really started about in that period when Reagan came to Washington, and he brought with him Republicans into the Senate for the first time in something like 20 years, since back in the Eisenhower administration. And the House, a lot of Democrats started voting with the Republicans. So Reagan had functional control. And that to me wasn't a bad thing. That to me was a good thing, because a lot of bipartisanship continued to happen. But it was the beginning of the idea that the control of the House and Senate were up for grabs. And Newt Gingrich came, and then in 1994, the Republicans were able to take the House. And he used what are called hardball tactics, and things got very partisan. The way people used to have relationships in Washington changed. And it brought us into a period, and basically we show in charts, we do a lot of political science in the book. The parties get further and further apart, and the amount of bills that get stalled in stalemate go up. And this is all before Donald Trump came on the scene. Things were pretty bad back when Obama was president when it comes to hyper partisanship. And that really frustrated Alice. She wanted people to be partisans. That's fine, but don't be uncompromising partisans. Compromise and get things done. Give a little, take a little, and get to the deal.
Now, was this the time that President Clinton, takes on the deficit?
Yes, Clinton first tried to take on the deficit by himself, and that was an unusual period when both parties were really committed to reducing the federal deficit. They just had different ideas how. And Clinton tries to do it by himself, and he finds opposition within his own party, but they do manage to continue. Really, in that part of the book, we really credit President George H.W. Bush, because he did break that no new taxes pledge, but he put in pay as you go and different budgetary rules that really helped during the Clinton years. But then Clinton loses the House and Gingrich comes in, and the two of them go into battle, and there are government shutdowns. And my mother was there. She was the budget director during those shutdowns. And she talks about, should we turn on the lights on the Christmas tree if the government's shut down? Because it was shut down over Christmas and into the new year. That battle eventually ends with Republicans realizing that Americans don't hate their government as much as some Republicans say they do. And so the public in polls started saying, let's get the government open, and we blame the people who shut it down. And so then Gingrich comes back with a new plan, and he works together with Clinton. And they, instead of the budget being dead on arrival, it's alive on arrival. They negotiate together, and they got 4 balanced budgets in a row. If we say we can't balance the budget, it's impossible. They did 4 years of government surplus in a row. That shows that it can be done.
Now, on the tail end of that, I guess a few more years, Obama and the Democrats struggled to make unified government work. Tell me, what was that one again?
That's been a pattern. So Clinton struggled to make unified government work. He goes it alone on the deficit. Then Obama struggles to make unified government work. The Democrats were in control of the House and the Senate, and yet a battle erupts between the progressives in the House and the moderates, mostly in the Senate, over Obamacare and whether there would be a public option and all kinds of things. It takes them a long time to get things done, and then they lose the House. Well, that sounds a lot like the first year of the Biden presidency. He has a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, and a big battle between the progressives in the House and the moderate senators, especially Manchin and Sinema. And nothing gets done until they finally agree to get something done, not till August before the election on the Inflation Reduction Act. Meanwhile, Biden and McConnell are passing all this bipartisan legislation, like the infrastructure bill and the CHIPS Act and the burn pits, and it goes on and on. So we had both things happening during the Biden years. But yes, Obama really struggled in the first 2 years, just like Biden and just like Clinton.
Well, is it impossible that we can change the rules and change the tone of American politics?
Well, thank you. Now you're really pointing to the last chapter of the book, which is what Congressman Tim Ryan was talking about. There's a blueprint in here to really make changes. And chapter 11 of the book is not bankrupt. I know it's chapter 11, but it's not bankrupt. I know you have a background in accounting, so I made an accountant joke for you. But chapter 11 has more than 24 concrete things we could do differently to change the rules in the House and in the Congress, change the budget rules, go to 2-year budgeting, get rid of the filibuster, change the way we do elections, change the way we finance elections. And in each place, there is what can you as the reader, people inside the government or outside the government, do to get involved in these various projects, to move our nation forward, to get people listening to each other, to re-engage in civil discourse within our own communities. And there are groups you can join and ways on the internet you can get involved. And all of that is in that last chapter of the book.
Well, that's terrific. That can happen again. There's a rebirth of that, hopefully. I know my audiences and the people that listen to my show, they're wondering where to go to buy your book.
Well, there's so many people that are frustrated with our divided government. And if you want to find our book, which is called Divided We Fall, Why Consensus Matters by Alice Rivlin, Sheri Rivlin, and Allan Rivlin, it's really available wherever books are sold. It's definitely, you can find it on the big online behemoths, but you can go to your local independent bookstore, and if they don't have it, they can get it to you very quickly. And you can go to our website, which is Zen Politics. It starts with a Z like in zebra, zenpolitics.com. And I want to give you one more website because it's not even associated with our book, Divided We Fall, but it's called dividedwefall.org. And it's independent of us. It started long before we got there. It's lots and lots of university scholars and people in the public arena writing how we can put this divisions behind us and get things done. And if you go there, you'll see us there too. the name in common is more of a coincidence than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One more accolade before we have to go. The quote here is, "They broke the mold with Alice M. Rivlin. No single person in recent history engaged in the public arena set a better example of true public service than she."
That's our friend G. William Hogeland of the Bipartisan Policy Center. And he worked with Alice on some of these projects. And the Bipartisan Policy Center is another great place people can go if they want to learn more about these ideas.
Right. Well, I'm glad you took some time to let the listeners know. I'm here facing the clock. And I want to thank my listeners for tuning in to Searching for Integrity. And my famous adios is so long, and happy trails to all.